COVID was so weird. I took a 2-year break from stand-up, like almost, kind of. There were like a few open mics I was able to get to here and there. I went on stage at a club for the first time in front of a real audience in 2 years. Very bizarre. I was all nervous. In the way I used to get nervous when I first started stand-up. You know, I used to get so nervous and jittery. My body, my whole body would kind of like shake involuntarily. So I was doing a little bit of that. I couldn't stop saying it to people. Like I couldn't stop mentioning it because it was so weird to me. You know, like friends would come up to me, like, yeah, I didn't see me in a minute. And I was like, all I could say is like, man, I'm like so jittery. I'm like a little jitterbug right now. And then I got on stage and bombed pretty good. You know, I was feeling pretty reasonable about my prospects for success, and then more or less ate it. You know, a couple jokes, got some small pops, but it was a C-, you know, at best, borderline D+. And I got off stage, and you know, my mind was racing, and you know, my heart was a little thumpity, and you know, everything around you feels like a little more intense when you get off stage after a set like that. You're just in a room with people. There's not really any real reason to be that amped up. Have you ever had something that you can't not do? That you have to do it? If you don't do it, that won't work. That would be a significant problem. Stand-up is the only thing I've ever had in my life where I've thought, if I don't do this, I will be on my deathbed full of regrets. Like, just guaranteed. Just like, that was so dumb. Why did I not do that? And I don't know if it's healthy or not. Like, I'm in my 30s now. It hasn't led anywhere. I love it. It's awesome. But it has gone nowhere. Like, anyway, my favorite thing to do. I don't know. I've been doing it for 8 years now, 10 if you count COVID. I don't really want to count COVID. I don't know. What is the difference between making meaningful progress as an artist and being addicted to a drug? Don't we all kind of have something we have to be addicted to, right? You gotta have something that moves you forward. For me, that thing primarily is getting better at stand-up. That's been one of the primary motivating things for me. And it's so weird because you don't really choose what moves you, right? You find out what moves you. You know, sometimes stuff just kind of grips you, pulls you, just kind of yanks your head around, slaps you in the face. You know, it's like, okay, I guess we're doing this now. You know, didn't know I was into that, but all right, yep. Because it's not like I was any good at stand-up. I was very bad at it when I started. Horrible, some might argue. It was very rare for me to experience any amount of success talking into microphones at strangers in bars for like 2 years. It was like 90% bad, 10% good for about 2 years. You know, not a great ratio, but I couldn't not do it. I had to keep going. I don't even really mind bombing anymore. Like, I kind of like it. It's kind of fun sometimes. Just, again, healthy? I mean, there's a physiological, like, painful response. You know, it doesn't feel good to have people look at you with a spotlight on you and for them to not be on board. It's a very special type of rejection to be off-putting to a crowd of people. You'll get sweaty, maybe have a little bit of internal panic. You'll agonize about it, you know, ruminate on it for days, a couple days at least. You know, I'm such an idiot, you know. Or worse, you know, they just don't get me. They don't get me, man. I don't know. It's a gut punch when it goes bad. But I still like it, you know. That's when you know you found a thing that you should keep doing, right? When it feels good to do that thing badly, right? Isn't that a sign? Maybe not. You know, maybe that's just a recipe for failure in life. I don't know. You know, there's something about that though, right? When you face plant and you're like, worth it. We're on the right track, baby. I think that's a sign, you know? Dust yourself off and try again. Dust yourself off and try again, try. Have I said anything on stage that I really regret? Not really. I've made some errors in judgment, usually when I attempt to riff. Haven't been great at that much of the time. But I've never said anything truly regrettable, which that's pretty good, for being 8 years into the thing, I've said some stuff that my family might be very upsetting to some of them. I'm not sure they're ready to hear all of it, but I stand behind the body of work, It's a lot of garbage, but some of it's pretty good. Some of it tickles people's fancy in unexpected ways, right? People like it when you do that, in the right context. They're in a dark room with their friends, drinking, staring at you. Usually that means you have a little bit of permission to attempt to tickle their fancy. It's such a weird balance, I view comedy as an art form. It's not just fart jokes to me. It is fart jokes, but it's also a beautiful art form. Fart jokes just happen to fall under its umbrella, and they can also be beautiful. Don't knock fart jokes. But it's always such a high wire act, and the wind is always changing speed and direction. You have to prepare so intensely, and you're all in your head. But then, at a moment's notice, you have to be willing to throw out the game plan, just chuck it out the window, and react in real time to whatever is happening, right? And I fall off that wire constantly, But it's a good wire to fall off of, because you don't actually die, right? You're not actually suspended between two giant tall buildings or anything. But you have to bomb. Bombing is important to stand-up. It's part of the art. Again, maybe it's just self-delusion here, but if you want to get good at anything, you have to stay in that space, right? People call it the zone of proximal development, where you're working at a skill that is just beyond your capability. You're reaching for that ledge that you can't quite reach yet. You're playing in that space. That's how you get better. I was watching Pete Holmes' show Crashing, and he gets rejected by the owner of the Comedy Cellar in New York, and she tells him, a strong bomb is better than a weak kill. I have plenty of white guys talking about nothing. Who are you? Why are you? Why now? It didn't do anything for me. That's what she tells him. Rough, you have to eat it repeatedly. You have to risk yourself up there in order to dive down deeper into who you are and what you might have to say. You can't just paddle around on the surface and play it safe forever. You got to jump off a cliff. You got to hold your breath, go underwater and struggle with whatever weird sea monsters you can't see that clearly that happen to be lurking under the surface. Is that analogy? Is that resonating with anyone? That's how you get stronger, more capable, a little wiser. I was reading the Seinfeld interview with Tim Ferriss. Tim Ferriss interviewed him. Great interview. And Seinfeld, he talks about how if you could trade away all your experiences in life, you could swap them out, the most valuable experiences, the ones he would hold on to for the longest, would be his failures. And he talks about being rejected from the Comedy Store in LA by Mitzi Shore, and how that made him, double and quadruple his efforts. The rejection only made his passion and work ethic burn stronger, more vibrantly, and he's thankful for that. He thinks maybe that's exactly what was needed for him to be great, was to be spurned and rejected by someone important and consequential. He needed that slap in the face as a wake-up. In that same interview, he says, it's designed to break human beings, it being stand-up comedy. It's a perfect way to break a person psychologically. So you're sitting there, bombing at these open mics, and you're thinking, are you Jerry Seinfeld? Or just another bum who's going to break psychologically? And I don't mean, are you Jerry Seinfeld in the sense, are you going to be the most famous stand-up comedian in the world? That's a stupid, ridiculous, terrible goal, honestly. It's a very awful thing to pedestal to try to strive for. It's almost entirely destined for failure. Like, oh yeah, 1 in 20 billion chance that happens. You know what I mean? Don't bet on it. I mean, are you Jerry Seinfeld in that do you have this steely determination to redouble your efforts in spite of repeated failures and rejections trying to crush your spirit? You know, can you persevere in a way that the work is rewarding enough in and of itself, even if the outcomes are bitter and punishing? Now you might ask yourself, you know, at what point do you just abandon the effort? Why continue punishing yourself like this? Like, what are we doing? The good news is, you know, I'm not terrible at stand-up comedy anymore. You know, I'm not great. I'm not incredible, but I'm pretty darn good at it. I can say that without feeling like I have a massive ego and I don't deserve to say it. You know, I'm getting good at writing jokes. I'm getting faster. I'm still just okay as a performer most of the time, but that's getting a lot better too. So it hasn't been a complete waste. You know, it hasn't been this total failure forever. It's some of the most rewarding work to me, you know, creative work. I thrive on that. You know, for whatever reason, I don't know, creating makes me the most excited. I really like making something that at least feels new. I'm a little bit of a comedy nerd. You know, I've always enjoyed watching and listening to stand-up for a very long time. It's been very gratifying to discover that I can make art like that art that I love. Because as an audience member at a show, you're seeing the more polished final product. You know, I've spent years now learning quite intimately exactly how the sausage gets made, you know, feeling how it feels to have to make that sausage. And it's rough, it's painful, it's also beautiful and fun. You know, it's a lot of seemingly contradictory things. And there are perhaps more noble pursuits in life, but I don't think it's cut and dry like that. I don't think we have full control over what we aspire to do. So you kind of just have to do that thing that grabs you to some extent. Because if you don't, that's not going to make it go away.